Tom Clark's 6M podcast is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show. Hey, what is up? Welcome to Tom Clark's 6M podcast. I'm your host, Tom Clark, and in this episode, I'm joined by co-host Phil Lindsey. We talked about John Hughes here on the 6M more than one time, and with really good reason. The late, great John Hughes was a master at what he did. You'd be hard-pressed to find any directors, and I'm sure there's some, who could do the American teenage coming-of-age drama / comedy as well as John Hughes. And listen, if you doubt me, don't doubt me. And also, listen to some of the movies that this guy has done. Mr. Mom, by the way, I love Mr. Mom. That was like his second film in 92. National Lampoon's Vacation, 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, European Vacation, Weird Science, Pretty in Pink, Some Kind of Wonderful, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Stop me if it goes too crazy for you. The Great Outdoors, Uncle Buck, Christmas Vacation, Home Alone. Dude, how much time you got? This guy's resume is sick with hit freaking comedies. I mean, he's a legend. He's a legend, man. All hail the late great John Hughes. I'm just saying. That's where we're gonna start today, because we're gonna get in today to Ferris Bueller's Day Off. If you've never seen this movie, you're completely doing life wrong. And if you have seen this, then you know exactly what you're getting yourself into. This is one of the most classic comedies ever made. I will stick by that till the end, till they drop the bomb or the aliens invade. From what I hear, it may not be far in the future. So we'll see what happens when we get there. Ferris Bueller's Day Off is a 1986 American teen comedy film written, co-produced and directed by, yes, you guessed it, John Hughes, and co-produced by Tom Jacobson. The film stars an ensemble cast of characters, and it tells the story of a high school slacker, Ferris, who skips school with his best friend Cameron and his girlfriend, Sloane, for a day in Chicago, and regularly breaks the fourth wall to explain his techniques and inner thoughts. Kids, Ferris Bueller Deadpooled before Deadpooled. Okay? Before Ryan Reynolds had ever heard of Deadpool. Before Ryan Reynolds was 3. I don't know. I haven't done the math. Either way, Ferris Bueller was doing it a long time ago. This film's release date is June 11th, 1986. Running time, 103 minutes. The budget, it's a mere $5 million. The box office is almost $71 million. Huh? Yeah, take that. And that is the lowdown for Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So Phil, Chicago native Phil Lindsey, Chicago born and bred, happily still a Chicagoan. Yes?
Yes.
Yes. In terms of films that feature your fair city, what do you think about Ferris Bueller's Day Off, man? You're a fan of this film, yes? What's your overall opinion of it?
I mean, it's an iconic film. When I watch it now, it's just kind of like, this isn't really Chicago that I know. It's Chicago that, like, people that come here as adults or, touristy. Like, it's not really Chicago that I think of. But again, the experience of living in the city is different depending on who you ask. But this is also 86.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a year old when that was made. So, yeah, it's not quite the same Chicago for me. Yeah, I of course saw this movie way after the craze of it, and so every time you hear of like like, man, this movie was this massive hit, then it's like, okay, let me see it, and I watched it, and it was like, oh, okay, that was okay, and people were like, no, but it was just like this huge hit, and I'm like, I missed it, like, fun movie, it was all right, but okay.
Oh man, this episode went south quick. Woo.
No,
I
and
didn't see that coming.
that's not to say that I hate the movie, but
No,
it's
no.
definitely one of those movies that I saw after the fact if everybody was going crazy over it, and I was
Oh,
just
yeah.
kind of like, oh, okay. You know what other movie was like that for me? Fight Club. Um, I had a friend that loves Fight Club, thinks it's the greatest movie ever made. I saw it and I was like, oh, it's all right.
I, dude, I'm on board. I'm totally on board. I thought I was the only guy that felt that way about that flick, man.
Yeah, I just think I missed it. I missed the boat. There are a few of those that after the hype of it, and I see something, I'm just like, oh, okay. 300's another one. I saw 300. I think 300 is one of the most overrated movies of all time.
The best thing about 300 is the green screen. It's in the effects, honestly.
Yeah, no, man, you couldn't tell certain guys anything when 300 came out. This was the man's man, masculine movie at that time when 300 came out. And when I saw it, I was just like, oh, it was all right.
That's all right. Yeah.
So yeah, no, somebody's probably like, "What have you done?" Like this is the John Hughes classic. No, the quintessential John Hughes movie is Breakfast Club. Like, come on, come on.
Breakfast Club is a classic for sure. Yeah. So you mentioned the sort of two Chicagos here. Is in your opinion, is this film sort of a is this what we give the tourists to kind of let them think what Chicago is, but this isn't all of Chicago, right?
Yeah,
Essentially?
it's Chicago. It, it's Chicago that through the view of somebody that's not a South Sider, and
Hmm.
I'm a South Sider. I'm from. I don't. I'm not a guy that, of course, comes from. Because the other thing about Ferris Bueller, and you notice this with all the characters right away, these are guys that are wealth. Like, look at the house that Ferris Bueller comes from. Like,
Hmm.
no, if you lived in that house where I'm from, you got some money. Like, I mean, all of the characters in the movie, like his friend group, there's some money there. So, um, yeah, no, like taking a day off of school and playing hooky, and then going into downtown area and going to a museum and going to a Cubs game. That's not the first thing I would think of to do day off.
So Phil Lindsey's Day Off would be a much different film.
Yeah, it definitely would be. It wouldn't be me going to a Cubs game for one thing. First of all, I'm a Sox fan, so yeah, that's just that.
Interesting.
Wrigleyville is a blast though, but the thing about it again, this is Wrigleyville through a view of a high schooler, and then like I said, like this view to outsiders. Like, hey man, if you're going to hang out in Wrigleyville, the funnest thing to do in Wrigleyville is the bar crawl.
Ah,
But you're not going to do that as a kid. You're not going to do that as a high school senior. You're not going to really see Wrigleyville. You're going to do the day cup game thing, which is, like I said, it's a cool thing to do. But the thing that's really cool about going to a game in Wrigleyville is just the culture around the games. Like you can go and just hang out in Wrigleyville. You can't really do that at uh, U.S. Cellular slash Comiskey slash Guaranteed Rate slash whatever else this field has been changed its name to. I refuse to call it Guaranteed Rate Field. It is still it's still Comiskey to me, and it hasn't been Comiskey in years.
dude, by the way, sidebar, the way all these companies have sunk their teeth in these sports arenas is quite frankly disgusting to me.
Yeah. I had a friend that used to call it U.S. Comiscular. But yeah, no. That's the other thing about about Chicagoans. Once we have latched on to something, we don't like change.
Mm.
Like the joke this week with Twitter changing its name is that people are like, "Good luck with that." There are people here that still call it the Sears Tower. It is called the Sears Tower. I refuse to call it the Willis Tower. What's the Willis Tower? That's not the Sears Tower.
It shows you how much I know about your city. I didn't know it had been changed. When was it changed?
No, it's been changed for I think at least over. It's been over 10 years, man.
Wow. Why would they change it?
Because somebody else bought it. You know how these things go. Money.
Of course. Just call it Stark Tower. Make all the fanboys happy. Yeah, I don't get that, man. That's that. Yeah, that makes no sense to me. So, all right. So, the landscape of this film, when you see the shots of the city, is there anything here that I mean? I assume all this was shot on location, but is there anything here that you're like, that's not in my seat, or do they get it pretty much right?
It's pretty much right. Everything in the downtown area. There's so much stuff that I look at like, hey, that's where I used to go take guitar lessons, or I used to work down the street, or I've been to that building. I used to go to school down the street. Yeah, no, it's pretty much spot on. There's certain parts of like the north side that I don't really see because I've I've never lived on the north side, and I don't spend a lot of time up there. 2009, by the way, that's when it stopped being the Sears Tower.
Wow, dude. And he talked about Ferris's parents. She's in real estate, and he works in a high-rise office building. But I don't think we ever find out what his job title is.
No, we definitely get the idea that they've got a little money.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Talk about this movie being a hit, dude. $5 million budget, made 70 million. I mean, in today's dollars, 70 million is probably 150 million. I'm guessing. I don't know with inflation what that would be, but yeah, this movie made some serious coin back in the day. In 2014, the film was selected for preservation in the U.S. National Film Registry by the Library of Congress, deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. I mean, it is a classic. It is a classic film. I can tell you that I saw this movie. I've seen this movie so many times. I could quote it chapter and verse. It's one of those movies I just got stuck on as a kid, as a teenager. I just got stuck on it, dude. Once I get stuck on something, I will watch it on repeat over
Yeah,
and over and over again. If I really dig something, dude, that will be. It's almost like you get your favorite song of the moment and you listen to it on repeat. I do that with films all the time, man.
yeah. If I am I right that the house that he lived in the movie is not in Chicago?
That's a good question.
I don't think it is.
I would not be surprised.
I know that the house that his friend lives in with the car and everything, that's in Illinois at least. It's in Highland Park, which is still
Hmm.
technically Chicago.
That's a good question. Not the first time that they would have done something like that. The Home Alone movie's got something similar, where the
Yeah.
exterior of the house was in another town based on where the movie was supposed to have taken place. I think something to that effect. By the way, Home Alone's in the archives, kids. I can't remember back that far. Got to cut me some slack here.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Most John Hughes movies take place in Chicago. Home
Yeah,
Alone takes place here. Um, of course, uh, doesn't Planes, Trains, and Taxis take place here too?
I'm sure it does. Another great film, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. Most of his films take place in Chicago. Home Alone definitely takes place here.
Dude, this guy's output, just as a writer alone, is effing nuts. It's just the dialogue, the jokes, the humor. I mean, again, I'd even read through all of his filmography for crying out loud, and it's crazy. I mean, a creative force in his genre. It's man, any director slash writer would be lucky to have a fourth of the success that John Hughes had. Oh my God, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, of course. What's wrong with me? Famous Chicagoan Clark Griswold as well.
That's
Vacation
right.
also took place in Chicago.
That's right. By the way, kids, Christmas Vacations in the archives. We've done this show for so long. We're starting to reference films that we've already covered. So, like, that's pretty cool. I'm like AI. I've been around so long that I'm now referencing myself. So, there you go. I knew the time would come. I've reached that moment. It's so emotionally rewarding.
Harry, I've reached the top.
Oh, my. Matthew Broderick is the star of this here little flick. Matthew has some troubles later on in life, but I think he has rebounded quite a bit
Did he?
and still out there, I believe. What do we think of young Matthew Broderick here in this film? At the time this movie takes place, he is actually 24 years old.
Um, I I think the way he delivers lines in the movie is just so funny to me. It's just something about it. The way that he pronounces things, the way he has like this very distinct way of saying things in this movie is very funny to me.
Yeah, it's comic timing, right?
Yeah,
That's how you would have to call it. His comedic timing is really good, and he's so plain and so matter of fact, and the whole breaking the fourth wall stuff. I remember being in the theater as a kid and seeing that, and kind of being a little freaked out. Like, wait, he's talking to the audience. Like, I don't know how many times it had been done to that point. It's been done a lot since then, obviously, but that's one of the things that kind of set this film apart from everybody else, right?
yeah. It definitely has that kind of Saved by the Bell vibe, which this came before Saved by the Bell, so I'm sure this influenced Saved by the Bell and not the other way around.
Mm. Yeah, and it's pretty cool. I like how in the beginning he's complaining. He complains a couple of times in this movie about his sister got the car and he didn't. He got a computer instead of getting a car. It should be noted in 1986, an Apple computer was around 8 grand.
Hmm.
So he's complaining about not getting a car. However, the computer, I'll bet in 86, 8 grand could have bought 2 cars. I don't know.
I love how computers are used in like 80s movies, and they just treat computers like you could just do anything with a computer. He's just like changing stuff on the school computers from home on his computer somehow. And it's just like, but how is he doing this? Like, what?
He's reducing his number of sick days. It's so funny, man.
He's just like, yeah, I got the computer, and he's just like somehow changing this at home from his computer. Um, okay. On like dial-up internet, I guess, if there was dial-up internet in the 80s.
Yeah. The number 9 was chosen for the number of Ferris's absences because it sounded harsher when spoken by the guy that is the principal. We'll get there. I don't know if we're ready to get there. We'll get there eventually because that's a long conversation. So yeah, I this is for me. This is the movie that he's always going to be remembered for. Obviously, I don't know if he would see it that way, but I don't think there's anything else that he's ever done. Maybe he could maybe do something in the future that would hold up just as well.
Matthew Broderick?
Yes.
You mean he's not known for Inspector Gadget?
No. Not for me.
Um,
This is 3, 4. This is only his 5th film, by the way.
yeah, I'm trying to think of what is a bigger movie for him that's not something he was a part of that was a big movie. Like, of course, Lion King, but how many people know he's the voice of adult Simba? Um,
Good call. There's
I don't know.
Glory. He was in Glory. Can't forget that.
Glory was a great movie.
Hmm.
He's in many movies that I enjoy in spite of themselves, in spite of the fact that they're probably not good movies. Um, like Cable Guy,
Cable Guy.
or or what's the movie he's in with Eddie Murphy, and they're like trying to rob the Tower Heist. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, he's in quite a few movies where I'm just like, yeah, I know various bits from this movie. I enjoy this movie for what it is, but it's probably not a very good movie when you really think about it. He's in Godzilla as well.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that with Puffy or Puff Daddy or P Diddy or Diddy or Daddy, whatever he's calling
Oh,
himself these days, doing that god awful cover of Led Zeppelin, which was effing terrible.
oh, the song where he samples Kashmir and he does the "Come with Me." That's the name of it.
Uh huh. Yeah.
Dun 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 dun. He's like he's got the video with Godzilla. Boy, what a time! What a time!
He comes out like he comes out. I remember this. He comes out in Rolling Stone magazine at the time of the film and it admits he'd never heard of Led Zeppelin.
Oh yikes!
Here's an idea, Puffy, Puff the Magic Dragon. How about not saying that in Rolling Stone?
Hey
Number
man,
one, you might be disrespecting just the least little bit the band whose song you're going to sample. Number two, if you didn't know, maybe just don't say it out loud because it kind of makes you look a little bit ignorant.
yeah. I love the story of Sting explaining that he still basically has to pay him every day for the sample for missing you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hoi. Yeah. So back to this Broderick kid. Man, that takes me down another road. He did do the producers, which is that's a Mel Brooks property. Yes. Not a bad flick. He was in B movie. God, dude, his filmography is pretty big. Pretty big, man. Played himself in Trainwreck. Has a cameo in Trainwreck. Plays himself. Yeah, he's done some stuff. But by the way, War Games, which was his second movie, I watched that as a kid as well. The idea of he was a computer hacker and accidentally almost started the World War III, I think.
Never seen it.
Yeah, it's as a kid, I haven't watched it in years. As a kid, it was fun, but I don't know if it'd be fun now. He was also in Biloxi Blues. Again, not a bad flick. So yeah, but for me, it's this film, dude. It's and I don't know why he would ever have any reason to be upset by that, Mister Sarah Jessica Parker. Why would he be upset that Ferris Bueller's Day Off is his claim to fame? I think I'd be okay with that. Cameron Fry, his best friend, portrayed by Alan Ruck. Alan Ruck has himself had a pretty good career over the years, but every time I see Alan Ruck in anything, I'm like, that's Cam, that's Cameron.
Yeah.
Dude, I enjoy Cameron so much. It is such a fun character. He's such a perfect foil for Ferris because he's a complete opposite. What do you think about Cameron here?
Um, Cameron is subtly the main character of this movie. Have you ever noticed that?
Ooh, hot take.
He is. He's the only character in the movie that actually changes by the end of the movie.
Oh, even hotter take. I'm with it.
Other than Jeannie goes through, of course, her change in the movie, but
Mm-hmm.
Ferris is the same character by the end of the movie. So is Sloan. Cameron is the only one that goes through an actual character arc throughout the movie. Um, seriously. Um,
It's
and
true. Yeah.
and I mean, I've seen someone else pointed out that it's all because he's wearing that damn uh Red Wings jersey. I mean, when I first saw this movie, I was like, why is this guy in Chicago walking around with a Red Wings jersey on? I am not this big hockey guy. I'm not this big Hawks fan. Of course, enjoyed the championship wins, but no, that's sacrilege. You can't walk around in this city in a Gordie Howe jersey. Like, what? And you're from here? You live here? And you're wearing a Red Wings jersey? You're a Detroit fan? What? It's like being a Bad Boys fan in the middle of like Jordan hysteria in the city. Like, what are you doing? But that's kind of the point of his character is that he's an outsider among his friend group. He's the only one of those three that fears what adults will do. He's the only one that fears consequences. The other two are just like, no, let's just have fun.
Yeah. It'll be fine. Yeah.
And so I kind of think this idea that him wearing this Red Wings jersey throughout the movie, and I don't know if you also picked up on this, the car, right? Uh, let me look this up to be certain. The car is a 1961 Ferrari 250 GT California Spider.
Mm-hmm.
You know why the year 1961 is also worth noting?
No.
It's also the last time up to that point that the Blackhawks won a Stanley Cup. Who did they beat
Ooh.
that year? They beat the Red Wings.
Maybe that's why he's got the jersey on.
If you want to kind of go and like peel back the onion of this thing, he wears the jersey up to a point where he has his character change and he realizes he's not afraid and um, he wants to stand up to his dad and he takes the jersey off by the end of the movie. Because he's no longer in an adversarial role. He's now going with the flow. He's no longer he's grown to take on more of Ferris's takes. I mean Ferris's outlook on life.
Hmm.
There's also if you want to get into the fact that the car and his jersey are the same color.
Ooh. I like that. I like all that. I'm okay with all that, actually. I like how the first time we see him, there's this scene where Ferris gets off the phone with his dad and he says 20 bucks, says Cameron's sitting in his car debating about whether or not he should go out. And the very next scene is Cameron in the seat of his car.
Yeah,
He's got the jersey on.
and he's got the jersey on, and it's again he very much doesn't want to be a part of this. Um, Ferris wants to be a part of this, being in the city, be a part of the city, seeing the city, and he's a guy in a Red Wings jersey that doesn't want to be here.
Hmm.
Wants to go back home and be in bed.
I mean, Ferris very much has his friend under his thumb, and he knows he is. He knows he has him there, right?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, but I enjoy Cameron's character, like, and I think he is in a lot of ways. It's kind of like his story of growing up and getting to a point of wanting to move on from who he was in high school and growing into an adult. And Ferris is kind of like this Peter Pan character, like it's like well, we're having fun.
We recently did Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and it's kind of similar in as much as Scott's not growing up; he's kind of staying in that same mindset as when he was in high school.
Yeah, it's just like when they were talking at one point, and Sloan asked Cameron, "What does he think Ferris will do after high school?" No, that's not really the story. Nobody wants to know what he does after high school.
Hmm.
This is it. Um, this is the story. This is for him. It's who he's considered in high school, and He's big man on campus. Cameron's not.
It's true. It's very true. Yeah. There was proposed sequels after this. We'll get there eventually, but yeah, I'm with you. This whole film is very much just a moment in time.
Yeah.
And we've had a lot of those films on here, Phil, where we talk about sequel. Nah, it doesn't need it. This film does not need a sequel. I'm so glad they never went back to
No,
it.
they don't need a sequel. I think I read somewhere too the story behind the jersey is that his grandfather gave it to him, and it's because he took him to Red Wing jerseys. I mean to Red Wing games,
Hmm.
and that's why he wears the jersey. Um, but again, that's to set up this kind of adversarial relationship with him and his dad that he gets along a lot better with his grandfather, and that's why he wears the jersey.
Hmm. Ah, that works. Yeah, I did find that interesting all these years. I never could figure that out either, but it makes sense. Yeah, I love the relationship between these two guys, man. Do you have a friend like this, by the way? Do you know, like, maybe not to the extreme where Cameron thinks he's sick all the time, but somebody that's just sort of self-contained and, won't take a chance and is just sort of scared of everything, scared of his own shadow, basically.
Uh, I probably did in high school. Not
Hmm.
so much now.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that's a good point too, actually. The idea of some of these personality traits we see in this film are because these characters are not quite grown up yet. They're still sort of trying to figure out who they are and understanding what their place in the world is, which is
Yeah,
not always the easiest prospect, to be sure.
yeah. A big part of Ferris's character in the movie is that he doesn't think he has any limitations. He hasn't been forced to see any of his limitations as an adult yet. He still thinks, I'm a kid. I can just still get away with whatever. I'm still invulnerable.
Yeah. Well, God, he is.
Yeah.
This film proves him right. Yeah, this film proves him right. Who does Ferris grow up to be, dude? Like a rich white dude that's like so full of crap, and he's a smart mouth. And is this guy popular as an adult or only as a teenager?
No, he grows up to be Matthew Broderick, and he marries Sarah Jessica Parker. Mhm.
Okay, well.
Yeah. Oh. I could totally
Oh,
see him being the guy that peaked in high school and growing up and being just like a guy that just has a regular job.
oh wow, what a disappointing sequel that would have been.
That's why we don't. That's why we'll never get a sequel.
Yeah, he's like managing an Arby's or something, right?
No, it's seriously like if you look at how adults are seen in this movie, nobody wants to see him become an adult because the adults are the fuddy duddies. They're the people in this movie that are no fun. Like they're the
Yeah.
ops.
Yeah.
You don't want to see him become an adult.
That Peter Pan comparison was dead on the money for sure. Um, I love the relationship between these two. I can spend the whole movie just talking about the thing between Cameron and Ferris. There are moments for me, even today, watching it back after a long time. There's moments for me even now where I kind of feel like I just want Cameron to punch him in the face. Like I know Ferris is the hero of the story or whatever, but like, oh, come on. Get off this. This guy's your friend. Like you just slid into the driver's seat of his dad's car as if it was not a big deal. He's telling you can't do this and you do it anyway. Like whose fault is it really that the car gets trashed? It's not Cameron's fault at all.
But that's why I kind of don't think that Ferris is the hero of the movie at all. I think he's just a catalyst for everything that's happening in the movie. I
Hmm.
think Cameron's story is him growing up and him being the one like, all right, well, I'll just take all the consequences because he could have very easily took him up on his offer and waited till his dad came home and just blamed Ferris for the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. That's true. But when push comes to shove, you can tell that Ferris really does care about his friend. It's not entirely as though he doesn't care about anybody but himself. You can tell that like the spot with the pool when it looks like Cameron's not going to swim, he's just going to float to the bottom. I mean, Ferris jumps in to save him, so it's like that was a little overly dramatic, right? But you can tell he really does care about his friend here.
Oh, Ferris, my hero.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good scene. Miss Sarah as Sloane Peterson. Let me tell you, my friend, as quite the young man when this movie was released, I was a bit awestruck with Miss Sarah, if I'm being honest. Brunettes with long hair has kind of been my thing. I don't really care how that sounds. I just, to each his own. But yeah, anyway, Mia Sarah as Sloane Peterson. She is, I don't know how I would quantify her character here in terms of her description. Like she's a rich girl, you can tell, perhaps. And I don't know, she's like she's in on the gag when they do the whole thing at the beginning with, Cameron doing the voice of her dad over the phone. All that stuff is so good, by the way. When the nurse goes to tell her that her grandmother has died, and she's so obviously faking it. She kind of exists only to be Ferris's girlfriend here. What do you think about Sloane in this film?
I like her. I think that, of course, at that time she fits the archetype of like very beautiful, seemingly unattainable high school girlfriend,
Mm-hmm.
and it gets part of Ferris's charm that again he somehow gets away with all these things. He has this girlfriend that looks like she's way too hot to be with him, and
Yeah.
it's just like it just everything just somehow works for him, and she's just part of the package of that.
Does he marry her after high school?
Yeah, he's I love that she's like he wants to marry me, and then you also see him throughout this movie very much flirting with most girls that he sees.
Anyway, he's dancing with the girls in downtown. Oh my god, dude!
When he's running home, he stops to say hello to the girls that are in that backyard sunbathing.
Yeah. Oh man, that's good. Yeah, he's a ladies' man. Women love him.
Oh man, Sarah Jessica Parker.
Ugh, not a huge fan. Just saying, to each his own. Not a huge fan.
You weren't a Sex and the City fan?
I know. Didn't you say you'd seen the entire series?
Seen every episode.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. How many times have you seen it all the way through? Have you like binged it at one time or just watched the entire show over the course of
I
when it
didn't.
was running or whatever?
So I didn't have HBO when it was originally airing, so I would see
Ah,
episodes every now and then.
uh,
And I'm very much a completionist when it comes to stories, so I have to see it all the way to the end once I
mm,
start something.
mhm.
Unless it's really bad, sometimes I'm just like I can't finish this. Um, but it's one of those things where I've seen it all the way through on TV. I've binged the whole thing, but that's not a Jessica Parker fandom thing. That's HBO does television better than most, and so most of the HBO shows I've seen all of them. Like I've seen Sopranos back and forth like at least 4 times.
Mm.
One of the best television shows ever.
Oh, well, there you go. By the way, Mia Sarah, I got to slip this in. She was Harley Quinn on Birds of Prey from 2002 to 2003.
I don't even remember that.
I don't either.
Um, yeah, but she's great in this. Very beautiful. When she's needed to do comedic stuff, she works. You can see why um, her and Ferris work together because they're just fun,
Mm.
and you can see them lasting. In all honesty, like you can see them, staying together. Maybe.
Yeah. By the way, a little bit of trivia back to Cameron for a sec. Supposedly, the role of Cameron had been offered to Emilio Estevez, who turned it down.
Dang, and missed a chance to be on screen with his brother.
Well,
Huh. They wouldn't have shared a scene before together, but they're in the same
right.
movie.
Very true. Very true. Good call. Emilio Estevez is way too pretty to be Cameron. Okay. I mean, he's just too good looking of a guy. Cameron needs to be tall and kind of dopey and kind of nerdy, honestly.
But based off his character in Breakfast Club, I can see him being too tightly one. I mean, and when you like think of like the fits of rage he has in Breakfast Club, I can see him beating up the car.
Oh,
Yeah, I think he would have fit.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I still think Alan Ruck's a better fit, but yeah.
Yeah, I think for this movie he works better, but I could see Emilio Estevez absolutely working. But and to your point of where it always felt like Ferris was a step away from getting punched in the face, like I could see Emilio Estevez punching Matthew Broderick in the face.
Oh yeah. 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 I think these two guys had to be polar opposites. I don't think they need to look similar, that similar, and I think one has to have boyish charm and be suave, and the other guy has to be stuck in his own head and can't figure out who he is. And Emilio Estevez doesn't appear to me to be that second guy.
Yeah, no, I think you're right in the sense that part of Cameron's charm is that he's kind of dopey.
Yeah. I was very much Cameron. I was never Ferris. Never took a chance. Were you more of a Ferris where you took chances and, lived life? Or were you like, nah, I'm going to stay in my lane?
Um, I wasn't Ferris in the guy that took chances, but I was very much Ferris in the relationship with Jeannie, and that my sister thought I got away with everything, and I didn't. I don't know why she thought that. I was constantly in trouble. But yeah, no, their relationship is very much like me and my older sister's is.
Well, let's talk about Jeannie. That'd be Jennifer Grey. If the only thing you know Jennifer Grey from is getting caught in midair by Patrick Swayze, you're missing out because she is Ferris's sister in this here flick. Man, let me tell you something, dude. At one time, she was the hottest thing around. I mean, her face was everywhere, every magazine cover, TV interview. I mean, she was all over the place. And I think this movie, for me, is one of the reasons you can kind of see what all the fuss was about. This is only her fifth film as well, by the way. Dude, she is so good here. It's like the disdain she has for her brother is freaking great. She plays it so well. She is pissed off through this whole film. I really love it, man. What do you think about Jennifer Grey as Jenny?
Yeah, she's great. She always has this scowl on her face the entire movie, like this look like something in the room smells. She just always has this like scrunched up look on her face the entire movie. It's
Ah,
great.
yeah, good call. Yeah, she was also one of the hot actors of the day in Reckless and Red Dawn. She was in the Cotton Club, American Flyers, Dirty Dancing, of course.
Nobody puts
She
baby in a corner.
Nobody. She's had some rather forgettable roles, but nothing too out of whack here. It's funny because there is a tie back to Friends because Jennifer Grey appeared on Friends, and in the ill-fated Ferris Bueller TV show, Jennifer Aniston played Jeannie in that show. And the show is not good, by the way.
Well, never seen it.
Uh-huh. Oh, I wouldn't recommend it. What makes Ferris really charming for like an hour or so for 25 minutes at a shot for a whole season? Nah, it's way too much. And it's hammed up to the moon. And it's I'm not gonna fault anybody. They were just trying to cash in. I totally get it. But like, yeah, it was not good. Um, I remember checking it out when it came out, and I've seen bits and pieces over the years, and I watched a little bit more today, and yeah, it was not good. One season, 13 episodes, 13 more than we ever needed. So yeah, don't go out of your way to see this, kids. I wouldn't recommend it. The girl that played Sloane in the show is actually the daughter of Mickey Dolenz, famous drummer for the Monkees.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, a lot of weird stuff about that little show, man.
But yeah, that's kind of to my point of why we never need a sequel. I
Mm-mm,
think like this sample serving of who Ferris Bueller was is enough. You don't need to keep the thing going.
for sure. Yeah. This actually came in 1990, 4 years after the Ferris Bueller movie. Jane Lynch had a guest starring spot as a teacher.
Yeah,
How
no
old is
thanks.
Jane Lynch, dude?
I have no idea.
Jane Lynch is 63, man. Hoy, I had no idea. So, yeah, there is your trinity for this film. The main three cast of characters here. And also, of course, Jennifer Grey as Jeannie. So, you got to force him here. Jeffrey Jones as Ed Rooney. This is one of those classic, great, ridiculous characters. This principal goes to Ferris's house because he's so hell bent on bringing this kid down. Like he does everything in his power to get fired, and I assume does not get fired because no one really knows what he did, and Jeannie's not going to tell anybody because by the end, Jeannie, turns face and protects her brother. Spoiler alert. We don't have to spend a lot of time on Jeffrey Jones. He's had a career, Phil.
Great character actor, man.
great character actor, but he's also had some stuff.
He's a great character actor. He's been in a ton of like memorable character roles, like Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Wait, not just a great character actor. Sorry, leading man in Mom and Dad Saved the Universe.
Right.
Leading. Mom and Dad Saved the World. Is that what it is?
That's it.
Yes. Yeah. Leading man in that movie. What a very bizarre movie that I have unfortunately seen way more times than I can count. It's one of those very funny and quirky movies that I'm not sure how it got made, but I could see it having a cult following somewhere. Um, I don't know what it is about that movie. When I saw it as a kid, like I was just enamored with this movie.
Oh wow. He's been in some big films, dude. He was in Beetlejuice, of course. He was in Hunt for Red October. He was in Ed Wood, The Devil's Advocate. Yeah, he was in How High as the vice president. I'd forgotten about that.
Yes, great character actor, man. He's had some great moments as just like a bit character in things. Yeah, what a career.
Yeah, and then he had some child pornography charges in 2002.
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
No.
Yeah, arrested for possession of child pornography and accused by a 17-year-old boy of solicitation to pose for nude photographs.
Oh.
Yeah. He pleaded. What did he plead? Let's see. His attorney emphasized that there was no allegation of improper physical contact. Yeah, but I don't know why that would make a difference. He's a registered sex offender.
Oh, no.
Yeah, dude. But to be honest, even after that, the guy still keeps working. I mean, he's not like, well, okay, let's put it this way. After 2002, his film credits, there are 3 film credits after 2002. And as far as TV is concerned, 4 credits after 2002 for TV.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Hey, man. After I just gave him all this glowing praise as a great character actor, that's very awkward.
It's terrible. I hadn't dove into it. I remembered there had been something, but I couldn't remember what it was. And then when I doing the research for this, I'm like, oh, that's what it was. That's not good.
Yeah. I do think it's funny that if you're a Simpsons fan, Principal Skinner is very much a John Hughes character brought to animation. Like you could see all of the ties. Like he's very much modeled off of the the authority character in Breakfast Club. Like his look and everything, he's very much modeled off of him. But then there's the episode where Bart skips school and he chases him down for the entire episode, which is very clearly influenced by this movie.
Yeah, well said. It's a shame about all that stuff because he's so good here. He's the stuff with him on the phone near the beginning sets the tone for who this character is, where he's screaming at Grace. The way he screams it is so good. Yeah. Because he thinks that Sloane's grandmother's truly died, and he says, well, why don't you wheel her on over here and let's have a look at her. Like, what?
Bring me the corpse.
Yeah, just bring me the corpse. Well, it's how these things are done, sir.
Bring me the corpse. No, he's so good at playing like this oafish character that you kind of want to see get his comeuppance, and that's why he works so well here. But that's also why I find him so funny in Mom and Dad Saved the World, because he's like this oafish character that somehow like gets in this weird situation with aliens and all sorts of stuff, and it's just like, wait, this is the main character of this movie? Like this guy? But yeah, he's great at playing those kind of characters. He's done it a lot in his career.
It's true. Yeah. Shame, but yeah. Tom Clark's 6M podcast is sponsored in part by Radius Law Group. Every day, Radius helps individuals, families, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations throughout North Carolina, Florida, and Pennsylvania resolve their legal issues by providing effective legal counsel in the areas of estate planning, as well as elder law and Medicaid. Radius Law holds the radical belief that working with a lawyer can indeed be enjoyable. So give them a call at 1-800-519-5667 for more information and tell them that Tom Clark's 6M podcast sent you. Edie McClurg as Grace. Edie McClurg has done some John Hughes films, buddy. Edie McClurg was the lady behind the rental counter when Steve Martin tries to get a rental car. Such a great moment when he has the encounter with her. Dude, she's so funny. It is ridiculous how funny she is.
Yeah.
And God bless, dude. Her filmography begins in 1976 with Carrie. That's her
Wow.
film debuts in Carrie.
Um, why is Elvira Mistress of the Dark the movie I always think about her in?
Ah,
It, yeah, every time I think about this woman, I just think about her in that movie because she's so prominent in that movie for so many. I don't know why, and I mean she's been in tons of other things, but every time I think of this actress, I'm like, yeah, Elvira.
she appeared in 2 Cheech and Chong films also.
Yeah,
I
she's
mean, yeah, Cheech and Chong's next movie and Cheech and Chong's The Korskin Brothers.
yeah, she just looks like she works in a library or a school, and
Yeah.
so like when I've seen her in other movies, of course she's doing that role. I think like she's been in other movies where she's like a librarian or like
Mm-hmm.
something. She just looks like she just doesn't. If you pick this woman out of a bunch of women, you're like, you're an actress? You sure?
Yeah. But man,
But no, she's great.
yeah, that's done so well for her having that look, you know?
Yeah, no,
Because you're
she's
right.
been around forever.
Mm-hmm. God, she's done voice work in Cars 2 and Wreck-It Ralph. Got a great voice. She's one of those actresses that can do a little bit of whatever you need.
Yes.
Like she wouldn't be the bombshell, the drop dead gorgeous love interest, but she can basically any other female role you can kind of conjure up, she can totally do it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, look, if you scroll through her, if you scroll through her filmography, it's always like some kind of either school or
Mm.
administrative assistant. Look,
Hmm.
secretary, librarian,
Yeah.
checkout lady. Look, all of
Yeah.
these mundane jobs. Like,
Yeah. Teacher, nurse, doctor. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, dude, this movie benefits from having some veterans here also.
yes, yeah, she is very funny in this. When Jeannie comes in and she's yelling at her, and she walks out and she's like, "Yeah, what a kid."
Yeah. the the scene where that Rooney hands her the phone
Hmm.
and she's going oh, and you can hear Cameron say Rooney calm down. Supposedly that scene was improvised. She was just supposed to hold the phone, but she starts doing that sound like it's Rooney. Oh, it's really good. Yeah, I always think of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles when I think of her. But yeah, she's really good here. I really enjoyed it. Um, yeah, just the faculty. Like you have that one teacher. Well, first of all, you've got Ben Stein, who had a serious 15 minutes of fame there for a while and became really well known as a TV personality
Because this movie.
because of this movie. It's what launched him.
Yeah, he got his entire um, commercial career, Clear Eyes.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, this really put him on the map.
yeah. He was. You're right. He got a whole career from it for sure. The whole Bueller. That's still a thing. That is depending on who you talk, dude. You can whip that out at any time, and anyone my age or close to it will totally get the reference, man.
Yeah, Bueller.
What was it like, dude? The story of Ferris's sickness spreads through this school like a wildfire, and we don't know who started it. But like, there's a community fundraiser. He makes the front page of the paper. There's all these wackadoodle things that becomes the background story as this movie's playing out. In the background is the story of this sick teen he's critically ill, supposedly. He's really struggling, and that's sort of in the backdrop of this whole film.
Yeah, that is one of the funniest running gags from this movie. Is just all of this stuff that's popping up. Like his dad's in that car reading the
Yeah.
newspaper. It's on the front of the newspaper. Jeannie's driving around. It's on that water tower. Save Ferris. You just keep seeing Save Ferris everywhere.
It's on the Trapper Keeper at the end of the movie on the school bus. Oh man, Say Ferris ended up being a band also. I can't say that I know any of their music. When Stein's calling his name, the girl says he's sick. My best friend my best friend's sister's boyfriend's brother's girlfriend heard from this guy who knows this kid who's going with a girl who saw Ferris pass out at 31 Flavors last night. That's a great line.
Yeah.
So I guess it's pretty serious.
That's again one of those dated one of those dated references. Like, I'm sure there's a bunch of kids like, what's 31 Flavors? Because they only know Baskin Robbins.
True, very true. What's the line from Ant-Man? No one steals from Baskin. Baskin Robbins always knows.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah. It's fun. Yeah, Edie McClurg's here. She's great. Couple of quick hits. Lyman Ward as Tom Bueller, Ferris's father. He's very serviceable here. Does his job. He's been a lot of stuff since then. I like him. He's got a good face for comedy. You know what I mean? It's kind of the Leslie Nielsen face where he could be straight or he could be playing it straight while also being funny at the same time. So I think he was a smart choice for that role. Sandy Pickett as Katie Bueller, Ferris's mom, who's more straight laced and not as much comedy. But as his parents, I think they're fine. Del Close as the English teacher who would say something and then he would hesitate.
Yes.
He only had one scene, but he drags it out for like 2.5 minutes or something.
Yeah, the way that they make all of these teachers and all these adult figures into the most boring people ever. You can totally understand why he wants nothing to do with school and why he continues to come up on all these guys and like getting away with things. Because all of these adult characters are just like incredibly boring.
It's true.
Have we ever seen Lyman Ward in the same room with Alan Rickman? Not Alan Rickman, but Robin Thicke's dad, Alan Rick. Have we ever seen those guys in the same room?
That's an excellent question.
They look very similar when you look at this movie.
They do look similar. You're right. Yeah.
Robin Thicke's dad. I love that that's what I immediately thought of him as. It's just Robin Thicke's dad.
Yeah. Instead of Alan Thicke.
Yeah, instead of instead of like Family Ties and other things he's been. Not to be confused with Alan Rickman, like who I said the first time, rest in peace, who has done tons of things like Die Hard and Harry Potter.
He's done a lot of things. Lyman has. His filmography is pretty big too. He started in 1973. Yeah.
Alan Thicke passed away as well.
I want to say he did.
Yeah.
I think maybe he did. Richard Edson and Larry Flash Jenkins. Larry Flash Jenkins, the late Larry Flash Jenkins and Richard Edson were the two garage attendants that borrowed the car. The bit where the Star Wars theme is playing and it's slow motion, the car is coming over the hill, is so good. It's criminal how funny that is, man.
Yeah, I just looked up Larry Flash Jenkins' Wikipedia, and I am immediately thrown off. You can't get more Chicago than looking at this guy's academic history. Graduated from Finger High School, which Finger High School is like not a good school. Both my parents went to Finger High School. That's how I immediately recognized it. Not a great school. He also went to Olive Harvey College, which like that. You can't get more Chicago than that.
Yeah, he was in The White Shadow. Let me tell you something, my friend. That's one of those shows I grew up watching, The White Shadow, and I loved that show so much. I haven't thought about that show in a long time. You ever get hit with something that you haven't thought about in years and you just instantly get a good memory from it?
Yes.
Oh, man, I need to go look that up.
Yeah. Yeah, no. That is, first of all, Larry Jenkins is an incredibly black name. It's an incredibly black name. The fact that he also has the nickname of Flash in it makes it even funnier. But like I said, when you look at like his education history there, I'm like, oh yeah, this guy, so Chicagoan, man. He's probably a Southsider.
I'm assuming he got I don't know how he got the nickname. Do we know this?
I don't know.
I don't know how he got the nickname, but I'll tell you this, brother. He was in some. He got some spots. The White Shadow, Quincy, which I also grew up watching. Lou Grant, MASH. He was also in Mr. Mom. T.J. Hooker. Just the name's still funny. What's happening now? Not what's happening. What's happening now?
Of course he was in that.
Listen, the original What's Happening. Again, I have great memories. Oh, he was also in Elvira. He was in Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
Was Was he one of the dancers in her scene at the end when she's rapping?
He was a technical director.
Okay.
Yeah. He was in something in 2005. I've never seen it, but I'm intrigued. Don't touch it if you ain't prayed.
What?
I don't even want to know. I
What
don't
is
think
this?
I want to know what this is.
Is there a poster for this movie?
As a pastor,
Wait, I have to find a poster or like some kind of like promotional material for this movie.
don't touch it if you ain't prayed. Hey, he also did a guest spot in The Shield, man. Dude, this guy had a pretty good career here. I don't know if "Don't Touch It If You Ain't Prayed" set it off, but
I
or
could
was
have
a highlight.
I could have never done this this movie cover any justice.
Oh, is
Wow,
that bad?
yeah, it's bad. It's very bad.
I hate to ask.
It looks like it's it's a Tubi movie. That's why. It's a Tubi movie. That makes sense.
Oh, well, there you go.
Those Tubi movies are, oof, awful, awful movies.
Oh, man. Notable characters in this film just because it's so freaking funny. I love that whole spot. And of course, the Cameron's biggest fear come to life is the destruction of this car, which, by the way, is not a true Ferrari. The actual Ferrari that is described in this film is too expensive to rent. So 3 replicas were made using an MG chassis, each with a fiberglass body. So the car is some Hollywood trickery, kids. It is not the real thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Lie to us.
Liars. Can't trust those Hollywood types. Yeah. I love the bits of trivia that happens in here.
I don't know what it is when I watch this movie. 80s depiction of black people is just it's so funny to me. First of all, the nurse. The nurse
Yeah.
that is just like, "Oh Lord, don't worry, child. Everything will be okay."
Yeah.
She's great. And then like this random group of black people that come around this corner to dance. It's just like, where did they come from?
Dude, when that moment happened, I felt so weird. I legit, and I was like, I physically turned my head from the screen. I thought, I can't believe this was okay. That this was yikes.
It's just like he's having this big dance scene, and I mean, like in the whitest way in this parade.
Yeah.
I mean, he's dancing in the most whitest fashion possibly. Like everything about this is incredibly white. And then you've got like this huge crowd of black people that come around this corner and they start doing like it looks like the choreography from the Thriller video.
Oh, it does, yeah.
It's like what's happening right here, man? Like that parade scene, when I look at it now, it's very odd, man.
They're all grinning and smiling and
Yes.
snapping in unison.
Yes.
At the same out of nowhere, like you said, they just pop up out of nowhere.
They just show up from around this corner and they all just start dancing on these stairs. Like what?
What do they call that when dancing just happens? It's coordinated. What do they call it? It's called something. I don't know if it's still happening anymore. But it used to be a thing.
Flash mobs?
Yes.
Yeah. Look at John Hughes was before his time, man. First flash mob.
I'm telling you. And here we are ripping on it.
I'm not really ripping on it so much as when I see it, it just makes me chuckle. Like, what is this, man? Like, I immediately think of Eddie Murphy's black man voice. His black man voice is hilarious every time he does it. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about when he does the like, say man, you trying to say I was over there? Like, and so I just immediately think of like Eddie Murphy's black man voice where he's like, say man, them guys is over there having a parade. Let's go over there and dance.
You know the routine, right?
Yeah,
everybody know the routine? Come on. Yeah, Jesus. Yeah, I picked up on that. That was a little hard to watch.
No, it very much felt like, man, we cannot show Chicago without showing black people. So, hey, man, let's get all of these guys to somehow just appear on the scene.
Like now, when that happens, if that were to happen now, it'd be like, let's do this because it's funny. But I don't know if that's the thought when they put it in this movie.
Yeah, no. I mean, it was 1986.
Exactly.
So.
It's the 80s.
Yeah, no.
There's a lot of stuff that can be explained away with the 80s.
I mean, but you also got to think at this time, this is when Michael Jackson has kind of taken over the world, and so the fact that they are again showing up the way that they're doing and doing choreographed, because I'm pretty sure that it's the choreography from Thriller. It looks like Michael Jackson choreography.
It does.
But yeah, very I don't know if this was intentionally supposed to be this funny, but it's one of the most unintentional funny things in this movie to me. It's just like where did this come from?
And then like he's lip syncing the Beatles, and everybody's really, really excited for him to be lip syncing the Beatles. This
uh,
random kid they've never seen before.
have you seen Paul's quote about this?
No.
Paul's quote of it is that he's seen Ferris Bueller, but he hated that they used brass bands for the for the performance of Twist and Shout.
What? That's his complaint?
Of course, it's Paul's complaint because he's Paul. Like I almost feel like he is. I almost feel like he did that on purpose because he felt like that's what people would think Paul McCartney would say because it's such a Paul McCartney thing to say.
Oh my. Yeah, it is. He has a problem with the arrangement of the song, not
Yes.
so much the fact that they took it. Oh, remember when Nike took? Well, I don't know if you know this or not. I'm sure you know it. Nike took Revolution,
He hated it.
and he hated it. So did George. They both came out publicly against it and said this is nonsense. Like I think George may have even spoke on John's behalf at the time and said John would have lost his mind if he'd seen this.
Yeah, he hated it. That was after Michael Jackson bought their catalog, if I remember
Yep.
correctly. And
Yep.
of course, Mike was like, "Ah, yeah, you want it? Yeah, sure, you did."
Sure, you can have it.
The entire story of him buying their catalog, by the way, tickles me to death. It's very funny to me. I'm sure Paul does not think it's funny to this day. He still seems very angry about it, but it's very funny to me.
Yeah, we've covered that here too. We covered it on the Thriller episode.
Yeah. Yeah, just the whole story of Paul telling him, man, if you really want to make some money, you got to get into publishing, man. You got to buy the rights to some catalogs. And Mike's like, yeah, I'm gonna buy your music. He's like, no, you're not. You don't have that kind of money. And then he buys their music.
Yeah. Does he still own it? Does his estate still own it? What happened with that?
That's a
Once
good
you buy,
question.
you own, or did he sell it? Did his estate sell it for any reason?
That's a good question.
I
I
don't know.
want to believe that Paul has put in a bid for it, and I'm not sure where he went with that though.
Hmm.
But the fact that their music is still popping up in commercials and things might tell you that he doesn't own the rights.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yellow Submarine was just in that what's the commercial? Airbnb?
Oh my God, you're right. Yeah. Ugh. I'm just not a fan. I'm not a fan of it. Listen, marketing, a lot of these marketing guys have become so extraordinarily lazy. Whatever happened to the good old fashioned jingle? Ad agencies used to have guys that did nothing but wrote commercial jingles. That was their job. Like, and a successful jingle can take you into the American consciousness. Now they just buy music and they say, oh, we'll just use this Beatles song. Laziness, I say, laziness. I tell you what's not lazy. Who's not lazy? Abe Froman, Sausage King of Chicago. Does that have any roots in anything real, or was that just created for the film?
I'm not sure. Sasha King of Chicago just sounds funny because this is a city that is very segregated. And because it's very segregated, you have parts of the city that have a very distinct kind of food. So food here is taken very seriously. Like I don't know, a like Sausage King of Chicago. This is a town that is known for its hot dogs. It's known for its Polishes.
Mm.
And then also, like I said, because it's segregated, there are parts of it like the Polish community here, the Italian scene here, because pizza and everything else is here. I don't know. I don't know the significance of it. It might be just again, the fact that, of course, this guy is seen as like the celebrity or like this notable person in the city because it's connected to something with food, because food is a thing here.
Mm.
But other than that, I don't know.
I remember when we came to Chicago a couple years ago, and I'd never had authentic deep dish in Chicago. And I remember afterward, I think it was Chris that said that was all right. I've had better. And I'm like, I thought it was great. Like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we're spoiled here when it comes to pizza.
Yeah, yeah, I
Also,
hear you.
it's also why I don't take certain people seriously when they get on our pizza and they're like, "That's not real pizza," and I'm like, "Yeah, but you keep coming here and ordering it." Listen, man. I just don't accept this from people where they're just, especially New Yorkers, where they're like, our pizza is real pizza, but yet you guys do the towny thing. You come here as tourists and you have deep dish pizza. This is a secret. I don't know if it's that much of a secret. People that live here don't eat deep dish pizza all the time.
Right.
You can actually order thin crust pizza here. I don't know why people insist on coming here and getting deep dish pizza. Why? Because they actually like it.
I like deep dish actually. I'm a fan regardless of where I am. I mean, there's not a lot of similarities, but well, there's no similarities between Chicago deep dish and New York, like you buy off the street.
No.
But I love pizza, man. I'm a pizza guy, always have been. For me to walk away from a pizza saying that was not good, that it has to be pretty freaking terrible for me to say it wasn't good. Even pizza that's half good is still pizza, for God's sake.
Yeah, I don't remember where we went that night for pizza, but I thought it was pretty good pizza.
Oh, it
Um,
was fine. Yeah,
um,
I really liked it.
and that's kind of other thing with why I say this is such an interesting depiction of Chicago is that they don't really get any like notable Chicago food when they take the day off. They go and they went to like an expensive French restaurant
They did, yeah.
where they ate pancreas to
I
joke
know.
later.
Ugh.
They didn't go like even when Rooney's in the pizza restaurant, like I feel like that's closer to like authentic like Chicago food, but you don't see Ferris actually eat any like notable Chicago food in the movie.
That's fair. The French restaurant is called Chez Qui, which is a pun. As said aloud, it would be Shakey's or Chez Qui. Yeah, the pizza chain, which is a pizza chain.
Yeah,
Chez Qui means the house of whom in French, so it means nothing.
of course it does. What is the Rooney French that he throws out when he thinks he's being all smooth and he's trying to say game's over?
Oh, I don't remember. Um,
Is it les jeux sont faits?
what does that translate to, or does it?
Game is over. That's what he thinks it means.
Ah,
Les jeux sont faits, which is also the name of a movie, which I think the translation here is the chips are down.
well, there you go.
But les jeux does mean uh, the game, so maybe he thought he was getting something off, but les jeux sont faits. Game is up. That's what he thinks it means. Because he thinks he's being smooth. He says it. He thinks he's caught Ferris Bueller in the pizza restaurant, and the woman turns around and spits soda on him.
Yeah, that was a funny. That was good. Again, Phil, this guy gets fired. In the real world, this guy is fired, man.
Oaf. But yeah, I mean, when you think about him, and when you think about Breakfast Club, how's that guy not fired? This guy tried to get into a fight with a teenage boy. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. 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 Crazy.
Yeah, but I think the great thing about Rooney's character and most of the adult characters, and kind of by extension Jeannie, is that kind of like Jeannie, Rooney's whole thing is like, how does this guy keep getting away with this? Like, I am a guy that works at the most mundane job as possible, being a principal of a school. There's nothing extraordinary about it. There's nothing imaginative about it. And here's this guy that has this big, colorful life. He shouldn't be able to do this. I want to take this guy down a peg, and then it never happens.
Right. Yeah, of course. What he says actually translates to the bets are made. Yeah. He's obsessed with this.
And he thinks he's so cool. Like when he's walking down the street, he has his sunglasses on. When
Yeah.
he tries to drop the French line, he thinks he's so cool. But like I said, he does so many oafish things here. Like when he's trying to like climb into the window, like the secret agent or something, and he's just like he'd get tangled all up in the pipes and getting stuck in mud, and you can see he split his pants. Like
Oh, he's a wreck.
he's all, it's all over the place.
He's a wreck. There's that spot where she tells him, "Ooh, Ed, you sounded like Dirty Harry just now." Really? Like he's all he's all really happy with himself.
Yeah, yeah, no, no,
He's got a great cartoonish face, like a cartoonish villain
yes.
face.
He does. He has that ridiculous mustache in this movie as well.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely terrible. but it's comical. It works. So yeah, Louis Anderson does have a very quick cameo. He's the flower delivery man. It's a great scene with the nurse, and they've got the flowers. Oh, to this day, that cracks me up. I can't help it.
Never noticed that Louis Anderson was there, but every time I think of Louis Anderson, I think of the short-lived cartoon, but also um, his appearance in Coming to America.
Yeah, he's a very funny guy, man. He really is. Always has been. I was a fan of his stand-up before he ever did anything on TV except comedy. We also mentioned Carlos Estevez, who you kids may know as Charlie Sheen. He's got a spot here as well.
Who is very ironically in trouble for drugs.
Uh-huh. Foreshadowing. The character has a name, by the way. It's Garth Volbeck.
Does he ever say his name in the movie?
No.
That's a very odd name to give that character.
I guess they just gave it to him. I don't know. His film career began in 83. So, yeah, he was also in Red Dawn. Man, a lot of those 80s teens, they call them the Brat Pack, right? That could have been a way to lead this show off. Didn't even occur to me. But yeah, that was the thing. I grew up with the Brat Pack, man. They were all the rage, brother. They were everywhere. They were casting everything. Yeah, did everything. Yeah, he's here in this film as well. Not a very, I won't say it wasn't a memorable role, but it wasn't very big. But I thought for what he had to do, it was funny. Someone you should talk to. You save Ferris Bueller, you lose a testicle. Oh, you know him. It's a great moment.
Yeah, I love that he is very clearly a drug addict, but he's like oddly philosophical for reasons. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And he's got her figured out. He's got her figured out. And she ends up falling for him and acting all goofy, stupid. Oh, it's fun. The nurse and Louis Anderson at the door with that jingle. I heard that you were feeling ill, headache, fever, and a chill. She's really hamming up. I came to help restore your pluck because I'm the nurse who likes to. And they just slammed the door in her face. What's great about that is Louis Anderson's bobbing his head from side to side, like with a stupid smile on his face. I'm like, where was this delivery going? That she's saying these. what was the end game going to be for this delivery, dude? Was this just flowers, or was this going to be something else?
Yeah, I always assumed it was a stripogram.
Ah, well done. Yeah,
That's
they all
what
seem pretty happy about it.
yeah, that's what I always assumed. It was like a stripogram, but there's also that rumor. I don't know if it's true that John Hughes wanted to have a strip club scene in this movie, which was fit my thought that this was a stripogram.
Ah, well, that makes sense. Charlie Sheen is only 57. For some reason, I thought he was older than that. Now I feel more older than I did before. And I felt pretty old. Well, all right, kids, there's your cast. There's your plot. I mean, there's some great one-liners in here. That's the Sears Tower they're in the top of when they're looking out across the city, yes?
Yes.
And Cameron, who's still scared, says, I think I see my dad. That's a great line, dude.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, there are two big sky decks in the city. There's either the sky deck at the top of Sears Tower, or there is what is considered, some people jokingly, the top of the cock, which is the top of the John Hancock building.
Ah, well, that's both dirty and fitting at the same time.
Great restaurant at the top of the John Hancock building.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some great little throwaway stuff in here when they're talking to Ferris. There's a pay phone in the school, which is lots of fun. You ever seen a pay phone in the school? I'm remembering back in my head, I don't recall a pay phone being in the school.
Yeah, I remember payphones being in school.
Really? Boy, I don't
I remember
think we
you
ever had that.
having the terrible pop machines with those big clunky buttons on it and the payphone next to it. I remember.
Wow.
But I'm also old enough to remember. I was just explaining this the other day on Twitter. I'm also old enough to remember bus tokens. So I'm also feeling pretty old.
It's just a swipe of the card now. It's like a pass that they scan, or what is it now?
Yeah, it's like a card. It's kind of like a card that you can put money on, and you can just scan it. You just tap it, kind of. But yeah, I remember. I remember when you got on the bus and when you paid, they gave you that little slip for the transfer that kind of looked like a receipt, and then the bus driver would punch that hole in it to let you know you've used your transfer.
Hmm.
Definitely don't do that anymore.
All right. So the fourth wall stuff, we've only briefly touched on this. That's another thing that sets this movie apart from everything else was the fact that he's winking at the camera from the very beginning to the very end. And that post credit scene, it's brilliant because they're showing Rooney's walk of shame to the school bus, or the school bus picks him up. It's brilliant because they keep that scene rolling through the end credits. So you are still in the theater when the post credits pops up. Again, not only did Deadpool break the fourth wall, but Deadpool also showed up with a towel on his head in the end of the first Deadpool to mimic that scene. Dude, this breaking the fourth wall stuff, it's fun, but you can only do it the first time. You can only ever do anything the first time ever. Because once you do it after that, it's repetitive. And whoever does it after you looks like they're mimicking what you did. But for its time, this was, I don't recall anybody doing that at the time. And maybe I'm just misremembering, but what a great element that just makes this movie a little bit more personable and makes it that much funnier to me.
Yeah. I of course didn't understand that that's why they were playing it all the way through the credits because I wasn't looking at it as somebody that saw it at the theater, so
Hmm.
I didn't really understand. I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, "This is going on quite a long time.
Yeah.
This is still going, huh?"
Oh, it's funny. Yeah, it's good. I honestly, again, I think it sets this movie apart from the others that even Hughes did at the time. It gives it its own personality. That's something you got to say this movie definitely does have is personality. It's got a vibe to it. Like this is in no way the real world, and it never ever could be because Peter Pan, like you said before, it's not. That's not. There's nothing real about this. This is all make believe, dude. It's what movies should be, man. Like I'm all for realism to a certain extent, but I think that sometimes Hollywood just goes way too hard on trying to make things real. What would Ferris Bueller's Day Off look like today if it were made today? You know what I mean? What would he do in a day's time? Sit around, surf the internet all day?
Yeah, I don't think he would surf the internet. I'm sure there's Chicago things he could do,
Ah,
um, but yeah, I don't think it would be as focused on the downtown area and like the north side. It's still funny to me that he chooses to go to the art institute.
mm,
Cause art institute is a good museum, but like I'm thinking a kid has a days off. Like that's what he's gonna do. He's gonna go to the museum.
yeah,
Yeah, no, that kind of feels like an adult thing to do, and that's why when I read that John Hughes was like a big fan of that museum and he spent a lot of time there, I was like, oh, that's why it's in the movie.
of course. That's the thing is that he takes his day off from school and everything he does is an adult thing to do.
Yes,
Like, yeah, the whole everything they do is for adults.
yes, but also you got to take into it that he's a senior in high school, and again, you're in this realm where he still thinks he's invincible. He still thinks he can do whatever he wants to do, which is a very kid way to look at the world. But he also wants to be an adult. Everything he wants to do is adult stuff, like driving. None of it is kid stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. During the parade, several of the people seen dancing, including the construction worker and the window washer, originally had nothing to do with the film. They were simply dancing to the music being played. And John Hughes found it so funny, he told the camera guys to keep recording it. It's great. It actually does. Those moments do feel like added in. They don't feel rehearsed at all.
Random parade in the middle of the downtown area. Um, like the spots that I can tell where they're at, like they're very much in front of the Flamingo. It's
Hmm.
a pretty popular statue in Chicago area. It's that like orange pinkish like statue that's behind him in a bunch of scenes.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I'm just sitting there. When I watched it for this episode, I was like, oh, the Flamingo. It's like right next to the post office.
Wow. And good call on the dance sequence. It was taken directly from Michael Jackson's Thriller video and the Jackson's performance on the MTV 25 TV special.
Ah, yeah. Somebody definitely saw that and was like, this is how black people dance, right? They danced like Michael Jackson because he was like the most popular black man in the world at that point.
Let me tell you this. I saw that event on TV live as it happened. Man, am I showing my age with this show. Even as a kid, and yes, I was a big Michael Jackson fan. You'd be hard pressed to find a kid who wasn't, when he was red hot, a big Michael Jackson fan. However, even though that special was great, seeing the Jacksons back together again was awesome, and the whole nine. Like, and Michael was fantastic, obviously, but he freaking lip synced the whole montage. He lip synced everything. Like, it's okay. Pop singers lip sync quite a bit. But as a teenager or whatever, however old it was, that's what stuck out in my head. Yes, it was an amazing dance routine and the moonwalk was breathtaking, but like, he was lip syncing, and I was like, I was so disappointed by that.
Was that was the Motown performance? That was the first time
Yes,
he's ever done the moonwalk on
that
moonwalk
would
on
have been
television.
fun.
Yeah, if he just like hopped off the stage and like done a moonsault on like Stevie Wonder in the crowd, that'd been cool.
Stevie never saw it coming. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Boy, God, he's blind.
Yeah, he's got a mom and a daddy.
But yeah, no, that's the first time he did the moonwalk on television, correct?
Yes, actually, yes, it was.
You're just like, man, this amazing feat that like everybody is now gonna go 20 years from now and still be talking about. Tom's like, nah, he wasn't really singing though.
I'm telling you, this is what it was like to be Tom's buddy as a kid, where Tom's the only guy in the room going, man, he's not even singing. And everyone else is going, dude, shut up. What is wrong with you?
He's spinning the ball on his finger. Just take it.
Oh, man.
One of my favorite Krusty bits ever. He's spinning the ball on his finger. Just take it.
I can't help it. It's that kind of stuff. It just makes me nuts. It just makes me nuts. Like, one of the things I loved about Arsenio Hall was like, because he was going to have Millie. All right, Millie Vanilli was going to be on the Arsenio Hall show. So he immediately caught grief for, what are you going to have those guys on? And Arsenio came out and said, no one lip syncs on my show. If you come to my show, you're singing or you're rapping, whatever it is you do, but you're not going to do it to a track. And I'm like, I like that. I respect that. So yeah, man, we went real old school 80s with this episode, dude. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Arsenio Hall show. Wow.
It was red hot, man. I watched it every week.
Yeah. As a guy that's a big Macho Man guy, I still think it's cool that he would go there and have moments on Arsenio Hall show. Like some of his best media appearance moments is, I feel like, outside of wrestling happened on that show.
Arsenio, I think one of the great things about him, first of all, I think he was underrated, honestly. But second, the fact that he thought outside the box. He didn't just, I want whatever the flavor of the moment is on my show. Dude, I don't think that was him. I think he just wanted to have interesting people on the show and talk to them.
It's an Arsenio Hall reference. That's what the crowd would do.
Man, that was a thing too. Let me tell you, the fist pump and the bark. My God, that went on for years after the show was off the air. Like, man, yeah, good times. In the back of my head now, I'm starting to flashback a little bit. Yeah. But you know what's great about, I was going to say what's great about me. Boy, that sounds bad. What's refreshing about a guy my age is that I'm not going to sit here and tell you, those were the best, that was the best TV and the best music. Shut up. I just don't, I'm never going to be stuck in my own time. I don't know. I'm just not going to do that. I'm just not one of those guys, man. I just can't be that guy. I hate those guys. Like, they dismiss everything new because it's not like it was when they were growing up. Like, shut up, because your parents said the same thing about your stuff when you were a kid. Like, yeah. Shut up, man. I hate that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, kids, there you have it. There is Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And there's a reason why they didn't come up with Ferris Bueller's Next Day Off. Ferris Bueller's Day Off as well. I don't know. Like the Friday movies, they made like 12 of them. Friday, Friday after next Friday, 2 weeks from Friday, a week ago last Friday. I don't know. I love making that joke. I don't know why.
Yeah,
but yeah.
There what, 3 of them?
What?
There
Friday?
3?
I thought there was like 4. Am I wrong?
There 3. I think there's Friday, there's next Friday, Friday after next.
Ah, you done blew my joke all to pieces.
Yeah, I think it's 3. You know.
So, speaking of follow ups, there were talks, but I don't think there was anything ever serious. Broderick and Hughes supposedly stayed in touch for a while after production. And, quote, we thought about a sequel to Ferris where he'd be in college or at his first job, and the same kind of things would happen. But neither of us found a very exciting hook to that. This movie is about a singular time in your life. Well said. Well said. Ferris Bueller is about the week before you leave school. It's about the end of school. In some way, it doesn't have a sequel. It's a little moment and it's a lightning flash in your life. I mean, you could try to repeat it in college or something, but it's a time that you don't keep. So that's partly why I think we couldn't think of another, Broderick added. End quote. Cameron, also known as Alan Ruck, said, but just for fun, I used to think, why don't they wait until Matthew and I are in our 70s and do Ferris Bueller Returns and have Cameron being a nursing home? He doesn't really have to be there, but he just decided his life is over, so he committed himself to a nursing home. And Ferris comes in and breaks him out, and they go to like a strip club, and all this ridiculous stuff happens. Then at the end of the movie, Cameron dies. My God.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yikes.
No, thank you. Here's another interesting tidbit. In August of 2022, a spinoff interquill. Let me tell you something. This sequel and prequel crap. Now there's interquill. Have you ever heard of that word?
I don't know what that is.
No. Supposedly, well, it happens in the midst of the actual film.
Oh, so it's happening like concurrently.
Yes. Sam and Victor's Day Off was announced to be in development
Oh.
for the streaming service Paramount Plus. And it's the two guys that borrowed the car on a joyride.
Did we really need to know what they did while they were off in the car? I think
No.
that the joke of it is that they went on a joyride. That was it.
Yes. That should be it. There's no film here. Oh,
It's streaming.
please.
Streaming will always find a way to milk some content, buddy.
I'm telling you, no one's better at it. No one's better at it than the streamers. That's 100% true. Yikes. Yeah. Well, there you have it, kids, in all its Chicago glory. And Phil holds this movie up as a true representation of the entire city of Chicago. He said it. He's on the record. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I mean, look, I get why this movie is held to the standard that it is. I get like why it's iconic for Matthew Broderick and like all of the things that it inspired later. There's so many countless things. Like when you think of the countless gags from Family Guy alone that are references to this movie. um, yeah, and there's tons of other things this thing inspired. Just like I just mentioned, Simpsons. There's so many other episodes of shows like there's a show about Chicago called Southside. Very funny show. Very authentic to the experience of being a Southsider. And they have an episode that is based off Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So no, this movie is held in the regard that it is because there's so many things that came afterwards that it influenced.
Interesting. Well, again, for me, this is I don't know if it's in my top 10, but it's definitely on my list of one of my favorite movies. A lot of it, I'm sure, has to do with the fact that I grew up with it and saw them dancing and lip syncing in a city that I'd never been to, and living the kind of life that I didn't know what it was. Well, I mean, I didn't grow up in a nice freaking house with a lot of money, that's for sure.
No,
So
I definitely did not either. Yeah. But no, I get that time period in life. Like that time period is still feeling like you can conquer the world as kind of like this right before you're too old to be considered still a kid, and right at that mark where you're still young enough to be still considered a kid. I get it. I get, moving on after high school is very hard for some people, man. And like those last few months of high school is just like unforgettable moments for a lot of people. And so that's why I get this movie is very much a time period in Ferris's life that cannot be repeated. Like you cannot go back and repeat like the last few the remainder of his time in high school. You just can't do it.
Boy, I couldn't wait to get out, I'll tell you. I couldn't wait. I hated high school, man. It was not for me. I couldn't wait to get out of there. I couldn't get out of there fast.
I think most of us did.
Ooh, yeah. People say, did you peak in high school? I don't think I've peaked yet. Like, I don't know what I'm waiting for or when it's going to happen. I don't think I've had it yet. So, no, not in high school for sure. Well, there you have it, kids. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Phil, if you had to sum it up, and you have to, because I'm going to ask you to, but I'm going to do it real nice. Give me your last word on Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
It's a classic film. It's definitely one of John Hughes' staple movies. It's one of those movies that he is known for good reason. And it's a highlight for his career, a highlight of Matthew Broderick's career. It put a lot of these guys in this movie and women on the map. I feel it did.
Yeah. And earlier in your assessment, you were saying that being at that age, anything's possible, and you're looking to the future. And also, kids, let's don't forget, this was during the Reagan years. This is when it was okay to be a rich dude, and it wasn't like it was encouraged. It was let's go out there and make $1 million, and let's take over the world, and let's everything's great. Reagan, for all his faults, and he had plenty of faults. The nation went through a pretty prosperous time. But they took over from Carter's administration, and that was not a good era. So, it's the ebb and flow. It's the rise and tide. It's just the ebb and flow of hills and valleys of the economy, right? So, like, it was bound to come back up. But
yeah, that's one of those things that I recognized right away when I first saw it. Oh, these guys got money. When they went into the downtown area. Now, of course, if you go downtown, don't drive. And of course, that's the thing that Ferris understood right away. You don't drive downtown. You get downtown and you commute everywhere, because parking downtown is awful. Driving downtown is awful. So no, you drive into the downtown area and then you get around. These three kids drove and parked this car where they had a valet, and then they caught a taxi everywhere. They didn't get on the subway. They didn't do any of the cheaper and quick ways to get around. They took a cab everywhere. I was like, yeah, this kid's got money.
Yeah, geez. This film is very much also a time capsule. I mean, because of the fashion, because of the Brat Pack, because of the 80s, everything's real bright in this movie. They never saw the sunset in this film. This all takes place during the course of a day.
Yes.
So yeah, it's just a moment in time, man. Like, yeah, it's very much an 80s film. I think the humor still works, but it's very much an 80s film. Well, there you have it. And as we kicked off today, kids, as we said earlier, huge props to the late, great John Hughes. The guy, again, was a master in his field. Very, very good at what he did. And, the true measure of how great he was at what he did, they're going to be talking about this film years from now. They're going to be talking about Home Alone and continue to watch it as a Christmas film 20 years from now. These movies are going to live on. Like, it's, if only that what you create could outlive you and into another generation of people, and then another, that's mind blowing. So, the work that he leaves behind is going to endure. And I think that speaks a lot to the guy's talent and what he accomplished. Not the first time we've covered John Hughes. It probably won't be the last either. We'll get to some more very soon. But in the meantime, that is Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Check out our social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 6M Podcast. We'll see you next time.